It was a Thursday night, but felt like a Monday soaked in whiskey and resentment. The kind of night where every word spoken lands like a slap, and silence feels like an open wound. We'd argued before. Hell, we perfected it. But something about this one felt final. Like a match thrown into dry leaves, it went up too fast, too easy. One minute I was asking her why she was late again, and the next we were trading accusations like grenades. She called me controlling. I told her she was a ghost, only home when she needed something or wanted to make a scene. She flinched when I said that. Maybe because it was true, or maybe because I said it without yelling. Some truths land harder when they're delivered calm and flat, like a bullet from a silencer. "I'm going for a walk," she said, grabbing her phone and jacket like she had this exit rehearsed. "In heels?" I asked. She didn't answer, just slammed the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. I stood in the kitchen for a while, just breathing, listening to the hum of the fridge and the clock ticking above the stove. The quiet was unnerving. Not peaceful, just unnatural. Like a storm had passed, but left the air wrong. It wasn't until an hour later that I realized she hadn't taken her keys. Or her purse. Just her phone. I figured she'd cool off somewhere and come back. Maybe drunk. Maybe crying. Maybe both. But she didn't. Not that night. Not until well after midnight, when a rumble of tires pulled up outside and headlights swept across the living room window. I was in the dark, watching from the armchair like some noir cliché. The porch light flicked on, and I saw her step out of the back seat of a yellow cab. Hair slightly tousled, jacket unbuttoned, laughing. That kind of laugh people use when they're trying to be charming. Or they're trying to make someone feel special. He got out too. The driver. Tall. Broad. Black jacket. Gold chain. Too good looking for a cabbie, if I'm honest. The kind of guy who looked like he drove more women than cars. He opened the door for her and walked her to the porch, hand barely touching the small of her back. Like it had been there before. Like it had memorized the way she moved. I didn't move from the chair. I just watched. She hesitated on the porch. Looked back at him. Said something. I couldn't hear it, but I saw the smile. Slow. Intimate. Her hand brushed his chest for a second too long, then disappeared into her coat pocket. He grinned and said something back. She laughed again, soft, breathy, and turned the key in the door. When it clicked open, I sat up. Her eyes widened when she saw me, sitting there in the dark. Deer in headlights. For a half-second, she looked like a kid caught sneaking in after curfew. "You're still up," she said, like she was surprised I hadn't just gone to bed and left the door unlocked for her. I didn't say anything. I just looked past her, out at the driveway. Didn't know cabs did front porch drop-offs like that. I said, finally. My voice was low, even measured, like a pressure cooker just before it blows. She stiffened, closed the door behind her with that guilty, careful motion. I didn't feel like walking. Called a cab. Must have had good conversation. She didn't respond. Just hung up her coat and started toward the hallway. "You kiss all your drivers goodnight?" That stopped her. She turned slowly, her face pale now. "It wasn't Jacob, come on. Don't do this." "Do what?" I asked, standing. "Ask questions? Notice things?" She shook her head, exhaling sharply. "You're twisting this." "No," I said. "You did that all by yourself." She stared at me then, eyes searching for some version of me that might believe whatever story she was rehearsing in her head. But I wasn't that guy anymore. The one who made excuses for the strange absences, the new perfume, the late-night texts she claimed were from her sister. "I needed a ride," she said, finally. "That's all." "Then why'd he linger?" I asked, stepping closer. "Why the long goodbye? Why did it look like you were saying more than thank you?" "Because I was," she whispered. "Because he listened. Because for once, someone didn't treat me like I was made of glass." It hung in the air like smoke. Sharp. Inescapable. She didn't apologize. Didn't deny it. That was the worst part. She just turned and walked down the hall toward our bedroom like the conversation was over. But for me, it had just started. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, rewinding everything. Every smile that lingered too long. Every fight that ended with her walking out. Every time I told myself not to overthink things. I wasn't overthinking. I'd just been underestimating her. And whoever that driver was, he wasn't just a ride home. He was an escape route that It was 12:42 a.m. when a yellow cab pulled up outside our house, its headlights cutting through the living room blinds like knives. I was still sitting there in the dark, pretending the TV was keeping me company, but really I was just waiting. Not waiting for her exactly. I wasn't sure she was coming back. I was waiting for proof. And the universe, cruel bastard that it is, decided to deliver it right to my doorstep. She stepped out first, heels clicking against the driveway, her hair slightly disheveled in that I've been touched kind of way, the kind you recognize when you've seen it enough times to know the difference between windblown and finger-brushed. Then he got out. The cabbie, tall, broad-shouldered, too clean-cut for the job, like someone playing a cab driver in a movie. He circled around and opened her door, as if she were royalty, and she, God help me, smiled. That slow, relaxed kind of smile you give someone when you've already decided they're safe enough to let in. She laughed at something he said, hand resting just above his chest for a beat too long. Intimacy disguised as casual. I didn't flinch, just sipped the flat beer in my hand and stared through the slats in the blinds like a man watching a house fire from inside the flames. She lingered on the porch with him for a minute, maybe two, said something soft. He laughed. She leaned in. No kiss, not quite. But if words could be foreplay, they were already undressed. When she finally walked in, she looked surprised to see me still up, like she thought I'd be passed out, clueless, obedient. You're still awake, she said, trying for casual, shrugging off her coat with that same breezy grace she used when sneaking back from yoga class reeking of aftershave. Didn't expect you to wait up. Didn't expect to see a cab parked outside our house for 10 minutes. I replied, eyes still locked on hers, watching for the flinch. Friendly driver. It's late, she said, ignoring the jab. We talked. It's not a crime to talk. No, I said slowly, standing, letting the beer bottle clink softly as I sat on the glass table. But it's curious. You leave after screaming about how I don't see you anymore. And 3 hours later, you roll up in the kind of cab that doesn't run the meter so much as it runs interference for someone else's husband. Don't start, she snapped, and there was the defense reflex. The guilt bubbling just beneath the surface. You want to fight again? Go ahead. You always need someone to blame. I'm not blaming anyone, I said calmly. I'm observing. It's what I've gotten good at lately. She paused, looked away. That was when I knew for sure. It wasn't just a flirt. Wasn't a harmless ride home. She made a decision out there. Crossed a line she couldn't uncross. And now she was calculating damage. Who is he? I asked, not because I didn't know. I wanted to hear her say it. Wanted to watch her wrestle the syllables out of her throat like they burned. He's just a driver, she said, too fast, too flat. We talked. That's all. I nodded. Stepped closer. Her perfume hit me. Only it wasn't hers. It was his. Mixed with her skin, faint but unmistakable. The kind of cologne you don't wear unless you're planning to be remembered. Tell me something, I said. Was this a one-time thing? Or just the first time you stopped caring whether I found out? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. No denial. No tears. Just silence. And silence tells the truth better than words ever could. I needed someone who didn't look at me like I was broken, she said finally. Her voice was low, almost ashamed. I needed a night where I didn't feel like I was drowning in this house. I should have exploded. Should have thrown something or screamed or told her to get the hell out. But instead I just nodded. Because the part that hurt wasn't the betrayal. It was how calm I felt hearing it. Like a man watching a slow leak finally become a rupture. Like a part of me had been waiting for this moment longer than I wanted to admit. Do you have a name? I asked. She didn't answer. Right, I said. Maybe it's better I don't know. Cab drivers come and go, just like passengers. She left the room then. Walked down the hall toward our bedroom like she hadn't just gutted our marriage in the foyer. Like I wasn't standing there memorizing the sound of her heels on the hardwood, because I knew I wouldn't be hearing it much longer. I stayed in the living room, lights off, blinds still half open. The cab was gone, but its presence lingered, like an imprint, like a bad decision you can't undo. I didn't follow her, didn't sleep either. I just sat there, watching the shadows stretch and change as the hours passed. And I realized something. She wasn't in love with the driver. That wasn't what this was. He was a symptom. I was the disease. Or maybe I was just the excuse she needed to justify what she already wanted to do. Either way, the damage was done. And the thing about betrayal? It doesn't come from your enemies. It comes from the ones who know where your weak spots are. And she hit every one of mine with surgical precision. It was the way she slept that got to me. Peaceful, unbothered, as if what she'd done didn't follow her into dreams. She lay curled on her side of the bed, the same bed we bought together 2 years into our marriage, when we still believed a firmer mattress would solve deeper problems. Her hair spilled across the pillow like nothing had happened. No shame, no fear, no trace of the fight that had pushed her into another man's car. I stood in the doorway and watched her for a while, not in some melodramatic, broken-hearted kind of way. I was past that. What I felt now was colder, focused. I wasn't interested in tears or closure. I wanted to understand the logistics, the mechanics of betrayal. Because once you understand how something works, you can dismantle it. At 4:13 a.m., I sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand, browser pulled up. It didn't take much. People think cheating is about secrecy, but most of the time, it's about carelessness. Arrogance. She used her Uber account, didn't even bother switching to incognito. The ride history was right there under her profile. Picked up at 10:22 p.m., 2 blocks from our street. Dropped off at 12:41 a.m., same cab. Same driver. His name, Tyrone J., 4.9 stars. Comments full of drunk girls thanking him for his good vibes. There was even a picture. Clean cut like I remembered. Gold chain. Nice smile. Too smooth for someone who drives people home from bars for a living. I memorized his face. Stared at it until it stopped looking human. Next, I tracked the license plate. Public info. A few tweaks in the search filter, and I had it. Registered to a Lincoln Town car leased through a rideshare partnership company in the next county over. I called a friend in insurance. Fed him a lie about being in a minor fender bender with a black town car on a side street. Got the driver's full name, DOB, even a second phone number. People are sloppy. Systems are leakier than we want to admit. By dawn, I had his address, his schedule. I even knew which gym he worked out at and what smoothie place he liked afterward. Information is like blood in the water. It doesn't take much before the sharks come circling. She was in the shower when I walked past the bathroom, steam curling under the door, the faint scent of lavender and last night's guilt. I didn't knock, didn't speak, just paused and listened. Part of me wondered if she was rehearsing what she'd say, or if she even planned to say anything at all. Cheaters don't always confess. Sometimes they just move on like nothing happened, banking on your silence to be the path of least resistance. But I wasn't built for that. Silence isn't how I heal. It's how I plan. At 8:37 a.m., she kissed me on the cheek like we hadn't gutted each other 12 hours earlier. "I've got errands," she said, grabbing her bag. Her keys. Her carefully constructed alibi. I nodded. Didn't ask questions. Didn't need to. I already knew the shape of the lie before she formed it. I waited 5 minutes, then got in my car. I didn't follow her. I followed him. Tyrone worked the day shifts sometimes, especially on weekends. Said so in a public post he made 3 weeks ago about early risers needing rides too. #grind. #blessed. I found his usual hotspot, a shopping plaza downtown with a Starbucks and a bunch of boutiques bored housewives like to wander through when they're pretending they're too cultured for Target. He was parked under a tree, phone in hand, scrolling like the world owed him a break. I pulled in 2 spaces down, engine idling. I watched him for 13 minutes. Took note of how often he checked his reflection in the rearview, the way he adjusted his chain. He was grooming himself in small ways, keeping sharp, not for random customers, for someone specific, someone he wanted to impress. When a woman got in the back, mid-30s, yoga pants, wedding ring, he turned in his seat and smiled like he knew exactly how to unlock her. And maybe he did. Maybe he was just that good. But I wasn't there to be impressed. I followed the ride. Not close enough to be obvious, just enough to stay on his tail. The trip was short. Drop off at a park near the lake. She got out, waved, lingered like she wanted to say more. He didn't get out this time. Just drove off. Headed to the next fair, or maybe to meet someone who didn't ask questions about his past rides. Either way, I had what I needed. That night, I didn't confront her. I cooked dinner. Chicken parmesan, her favorite. She ate like nothing was wrong. Talked about the grocery store like the world was still in one piece. I listened, smiled, played the role, because I wasn't ready to end it yet. Not before I understood all of it. Not before I figured out what kind of man he really was. A thrill? A rebound? Or something deeper? She wasn't going to tell me. But he might. Because people like Tyrone, they talk, they brag. And all it takes is the right setting. The right question. The right man willing to pretend he's just another fool looking for a taste of someone else's wife. I wasn't here to save my marriage. I was here to deconstruct the affair. And I was just getting started. The bar was one of those half-forgotten places sandwiched between a pawn shop and a vape store, the kind of place people went when they didn't want to be seen. The sign outside just said Joe's, nothing more. Inside, the light was low, the kind of dim where faces melt into shadows and voices carry like secrets. I sat 2 stools from the end, nursing a whiskey I didn't want, wearing a ball cap low over my eyes and a leather jacket I hadn't worn in years. I looked just rough enough to blend in and just clean enough not to get bounced. He walked in at 9:27. I knew he would. Tyrone liked his patterns. Same bar every Thursday. Same stool by the corner. He was a creature of habit. Most predators are. I watched him from the mirror behind the bar, the way he greeted the bartender like an old friend, clapped him on the back, tossed a 20 on the counter before even ordering. Confidence. Swagger. That was his armor. It made women feel safe right up until they weren't. I waited until he was halfway through his drink before I moved. Not rushed. Casual, like I was just another guy killing time. I slid onto the stool beside him and nodded once. He gave me a once-over, the kind guys do when they try to figure out if they've slept with your sister. You drive? I asked, keeping my voice low, eyes on the TV overhead. He raised an eyebrow. Drive? Uber? Lyft? Whatever. I saw you pull up in that Lincoln earlier. Clean car. Good taste. He smiled. Small. Modest. Like someone who's been complimented enough to know how to act humble about it. Yeah, I drive. Pays the bills. Pays well. Better than people think. Especially if you know how to make the experience memorable. I smirked. Memorable how? He chuckled. Took a sip of his drink. Let's just say some passengers tip more than money. That right. I turned to him now. Let him see the look in my eyes. Calm. Intrigued. Just a hint of envy. I bet you get stories. Man, he laughed, leaning in a little, his voice dropping like he was about to hand over the nuclear codes. You wouldn't believe what bored housewives will do when they've had one too many martinis and a husband who stopped paying attention. I'll let that hang. Let it simmer. Then ask the question I come for. Ever pick up anyone from Windsor Street? Brown colonial. Black shutters. Always dressed like she just walked out of catalog. He paused, just for a second, but it was enough. I saw it. Recognition. Guilt. A flicker. He covered it quick, took another drink, shrugged. Pick up a lot of people, man. Faces blur together. Not hers, I said. Not the way she talks. The way she touches your arm when she laughs. You don't forget a woman like that. Silence stretched. He didn't deny it. Didn't need to. I'd already seen everything I needed in that 2-second flicker. She your girl? He asked finally, like he was trying to feel out whether to lie or backpedal. Wife, I said. Was anyway. He winced. Looked down. Look, man, I didn't know, don't lie. I said, not harsh, just steady. You knew. You always know. That's part of the thrill, isn't it? Knowing she's got someone waiting at home. Makes you feel like you've got something he doesn't. She told me you were done. He said, more defensive now. Said the marriage was dead. And you believed her? Why wouldn't I? Because cheaters lie, I said. That's how it works. She lies to me. She lies to you. You think you're the exception. You're just the latest in a long line. He went quiet again, swirled the last of his drink. What do you want, man? He asked finally. You here to fight me or something? No, I said. Not here to fight. I'm here to understand. Understand what? What made you think I wouldn't find out? He laughed, bitter and sharp. You're asking the wrong guy. Ask her. I will. I said. But you're part of this now, and you don't get to walk away clean. He stiffened. I didn't do anything illegal. No, I said. Just immoral. But don't worry. I'm not here to ruin your life. Not yet. He didn't like the sound of that. I saw it in the way his shoulders tightened. I finished my drink, stood up, tossed a 20 on the counter. "Thanks for the chat," I said. "I'll see you around." "Don't come back here," he said, trying to sound tougher than he was. "You don't want to start something." "I already did," I said over my shoulder. "You just haven't realized it yet." I left the bar and stepped into the cold. The air felt cleaner outside, sharper, like something was finally beginning to settle inside me. I wasn't looking for revenge in the classic sense. I wasn't going to slash tires or send threatening texts or post screenshots. No, I was going to do something worse. I was going to make them question everything. Every glance, every silence, every moment they thought they were safe. I'd be the quiet thought they couldn't shake, the ghost that lingered in the corners of their good time. She hadn't told him everything. I knew that now. She hadn't told him where the money came from or what she'd taken before she slipped into his passenger seat. And that meant I had leverage. I just had to figure out how to use it. Tyrone had opened the door. Now I was going to step through it. And if she thought she could play both sides, she was about to find out what happens when the man she underestimated stops waiting for the truth and starts rewriting the ending himself. She came home late the next night. Not late enough to be suspicious on paper, but late enough for me to hear the change in her footsteps. No urgency, no apology, just a slow, practiced calm, like someone who knows they've already been forgiven for something they haven't admitted to yet. I was sitting at the table, lights low, phone face down, drink untouched. She walked in, dropped her keys in a bowl by the door, kicked off her shoes like this was still her sanctuary. I watched her the way you watch a stranger in your house, quietly, with measured calculation, wondering how long they've been here pretending to be someone they're not. "Hey," she said, voice light. She didn't ask why the lights were dim or why I hadn't turned the TV on like usual. "Long day." "Something like that," I said. She moved past me into the kitchen, opened the fridge, took out a bottle of wine. She never used to drink during the week. That was one of her self-imposed rules. No alcohol Monday through Thursday. But ever since she started coming home late, the rules had started bending. First wine, then longer showers, then different perfume. Little things, but they add up, like drops of water that one day split concrete. "You eat?" she asked. "Not hungry," I said. "You?" I grabbed something on the way. "With him?" I asked. Calm, even. No hint of accusation. Just curiosity, like I was asking if she paid the electric bill. She froze for half a second, turned back slowly. "What?" "Tyrone," I said. "That's his name, right?" She blinked, tried to smile. Failed. "I don't know what you think you know. I know he drives a black Lincoln with leather seats and a habit of stopping just short of second base in your driveway." Her mouth opened, but I kept going. "I know you use your personal Uber account because you didn't think I'd ever check. I know he likes vodka tonics and talking about bored wives who leave the meter running." Her hand trembled slightly as she set the wine bottle on the counter. "You followed me?" "No," I said. "I followed him." That landed harder. She swallowed, avoided my eyes. "So what is this? You want a confession? You want me to cry? Beg?" "No," I said. "I want honesty. For once." She leaned against the counter, arms folded across her chest. Defensive, cornered, but not remorseful. That's what struck me. She wasn't sorry. She was annoyed. "It wasn't serious," she said. "It didn't mean anything." "Then why'd you go back?" Her eyes flicked to the window. "Anywhere but me." "Because it felt good," she whispered. "Because I didn't feel like a disappointment for once." "To who?" I asked. "To him? Or to yourself?" Silence. The kind that stretches between two people who stopped speaking the same language a long time ago. "You think I planned this?" she said finally. "You think I woke up one day and said, 'Hey, I think I'll destroy my marriage with a cab driver who plays smooth jazz in his car and smells like designer regret?' No," I said. "I think you just stopped trying. And when someone offered you the illusion of being wanted, you grabbed it like a lifeline." She flinched at that, because it was too close to the truth. "You think I'm proud of it?" she said. "You think I don't hate myself every time I come home and see you trying so hard to act like nothing's broken?" "I don't act like nothing's broken," I said. "I just didn't think you'd be the one holding the hammer." That shut her up. I stood and walked to the drawer by the fridge, pulled out a folder, dropped it on the table between us. She stared at it like it might explode. "What is that?" "Printouts," I said. "Every ride. Every text, every late night location ping. Even one from that night, you told me your sister was sick. You tracked me. No, I said. I remembered how to pay attention. She didn't touch the folder, just stared at it. What do you want from me? I want you to admit you chose him. Not because you had to, not because we were over, but because it was easy, because it required nothing of you. You want me to say I'm a coward, she said, voice low. If that's what it is, I replied. Then say it. She looked at me for the first time in weeks. Really looked, and I saw it then. The fear, not of me, not of consequences, but of being seen, of being known, of no longer being able to hide behind the version of herself she curated with Instagram filters and polished dinner-party smiles. I didn't mean to fall into it, she said. I just didn't stop myself. And now? I asked, is it done? She didn't answer. That was my answer. I nodded, picked up the folder, slid it back into the drawer. I'm not going to yell, I said. I'm not going to hit walls or break dishes. I'm not going to sleep on the couch. Then what are you going to do? She asked, voice shaking now. I'm going to give you a choice, I said. Tell him it's over. Tonight. In front of me. Or pack your things and go. And if I call him and he doesn't pick up, then you leave anyway. Because if he won't answer, he's not yours either. Her lips parted. Her face pale. I didn't wait. I pulled out my phone, tapped the speaker icon. Call Tyrone, I said aloud. She stared at the screen as it rang once, twice, 3 times. Then his voice. Yo, you good? It's me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We can't do this anymore. Silence. Then, you sure about that? Yes, she said, and this time I heard it, finality. Or maybe fear. Okay, he said, cool as ever. Take care then. The line went dead. She set the phone down like it had scorched her palm. I stood up, walked past her, paused at the hallway. It's done now, I said, but it's not forgotten. She didn't reply, just stood there, frozen, alone. And for the first time, I realized so was I thought the days after the call were quiet, but not the kind of quiet that heals anything. It was surgical, hollow, like we'd both been stitched back together without anesthesia. She went to work. I stayed home. Meals were cooked, eaten in silence. Chores done without asking. We became efficient strangers orbiting the same kitchen tile, brushing shoulders with the barest acknowledgement of each other's existence. I'd asked her to end it, and she had. Or at least, she'd pretended to. But anyone who's lived through betrayal knows the lie doesn't die with a single phone call. It just goes dormant, buries itself in the space between sentences, in the long pauses before good night. I didn't trust her. I didn't trust the way she smiled at her phone or the way her fingers hesitated just a little too long before locking the screen. And I didn't trust the way I still wanted to believe it was over just because I'd heard it on speaker. I started digging again, not because I was paranoid, but because I was too damn sober not to be. Trust is like a joint bank account. You notice real fast when someone starts making withdrawals without asking. One night, while she showered, I went out to her car. It was cold, rain clinging to the windshield in uneven beads. I opened the door, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at the dashboard like it was going to confess. Nothing obvious, nothing stupid. She was smarter than that. But people hide things where they assume others won't look, because they've forgotten they're being watched. The glove box was locked. That was new. We'd had that car 3 years, and I'd never seen her use that lock. But it was clicked shut now. Subtle. Like an afterthought. Like she didn't think I'd notice. I fetched a spare key from the junk drawer inside, came back out, popped it open. Inside was a black envelope. Not a regular one. A kind you buy from a stationery boutique. The kind you don't just toss receipts into. It smelled like her perfume. I could already feel the wrongness crawling on my spine. Inside were photos. 4 of them. One was her and Tyrone, taken at some downtown rooftop bar, his hand at the small of her back, her face tilted up, laughing like the version of her I hadn't seen in months. One was a receipt, 2 glasses of champagne, 1 lobster ravioli, 1 steak medium rare. The date was 2 days before our anniversary. One was a map, printed in color, with a red circle drawn around a lakeside condo, an hour from the city. And the last was a key. A single brass key attached to a tag that read 12B. I stared at it for a long time. Not touching, not breathing, just absorbing the weight of what I was looking at. This wasn't just a fling, this was something else. Something planned, thought out. They had a place, a location, a key. This was real. I've been thinking of him as a phase, a detour, something spontaneous and foolish. But this wasn't that. This was investment, intention. She had one foot already planted in another life, and the only reason she hadn't stepped over fully was because I was still in the way. I didn't take the photos. Didn't need to. I snapped my own with my phone, every angle, every date. Closed the envelope, locked the glove box again, and walked back inside. She was on the couch in a bathrobe, scrolling Instagram, pretending to care about someone else's vacation. I walked past her and went into the bedroom, shut the door, sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall like it held the answers. It didn't, but my next move did. The following afternoon, I drove out to the address circled on the map. The lake was half frozen, trees skeletal in the winter wind. It was a private complex, new construction, overpriced for what it was, but modern enough to lure people who liked pretending they were rich. Condo 12B was on the second floor. No lights on, no car in the lot. I parked across the street, waited 20 minutes, then 30. No one came. Eventually, I walked up, tried the key I'd had copied that morning. It fit. The lock clicked open like it had been waiting for me. The place was barely furnished. White couch, glass table, open kitchen, no personal touches. But the smell was hers. That citrus floral she always spritzed on her scarf before leaving the house. It clung to the air, to the walls, to the silence. There were 2 wine glasses in the sink, an empty bottle of rose on the counter, and a phone charger plugged in next to the bed. She hadn't just thought about this place. She'd been here. Recently. I stood in the middle of the room and let it sink in. Let the reality wrap itself around me like barbed wire. This wasn't about sex. It wasn't about loneliness. It was about escape. She'd built a lifeboat and waited for a storm big enough to justify using it. That night, I didn't confront her. I made dinner, set the table, lit a candle, and watched her face as she sat down across from me, smiling like nothing was bleeding between us. I smiled back, because now I had something better than proof. I had leverage, and I wasn't going to use it to win her back. I was going to use it to make her choose. Burn the bridge behind her, or crawl back across it. On her knees, she came home Friday night at 6:18 p.m., same time as always, same keys clinking in a bowl by the door, same coat hung up like we were still living in a life that hadn't gone sour at the core. I was already in the kitchen, a pot simmering on the stove, a bottle of her favorite red breathing on the counter, candlelight softening the edges of everything. It looked like romance, but it wasn't. It was staging, the way a realtor dresses up a house before the big sale. The illusion of warmth, the mask of something lived in. She smiled when she walked in, one of those tentative smiles like she was testing the waters. "What's all this?" she asked, stepping out of her heels, her voice airy like nothing had happened. "Just wanted to have a nice dinner," I said. "Been a weird week." She nodded, hair tucked behind one ear, moving toward the sink to wash her hands. She didn't ask questions. People never ask questions when they know the answers are a threat. We sat across from each other at the table, plates full, candle flickering between us like a truce flag. She picked at her food. I watched her. No music, no TV, just knives and forks scraping porcelain, the quiet hum of a fridge running out of patience. 10 minutes in, I set my fork down. "You ever think about starting over?" I asked. She looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "New place, new name, leaving everything behind and just disappearing." She gave a short, nervous laugh. "That's dark." "No, it's honest. Don't you ever feel like you've already checked out and just forgot to pack?" Her hand froze on the stem of her wine glass. She didn't answer. I leaned forward. "I found the key, Claire." Silence. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her hands went slack. "The one in your glove box. The one labeled 12B. She swallowed hard. "You went through my car? You left it locked. That's what made it obvious. You only lock what you're afraid someone will open." She stood, pacing a step, arms crossed. "That wasn't for you to find." "No," I said, "but I did. And I used it. I saw the place. I saw the bed, the charger, the glasses in the sink. You weren't just cheating. You were relocating. It wasn't like that, she whispered. Then what was it? A vacation home for the emotionally bankrupt. She didn't answer, just stared at the floor like it held an escape hatch. Sit down, I said, quiet but firm. She hesitated, then obeyed. So here's how this works, I continued. You have a decision to make. No more pretending, no more half-lies, no more quiet little getaways while I keep the lights on at home. You choose. Right now. That place, that man, that life. Or this one. Me. The man you married. The house you swore you'd build a future in. But you don't get both. She shook her head slowly. You can't do that. I just did. You don't understand? No, Claire, I said, my voice steel now. You're the one who doesn't understand. I'm not angry because you cheated. I'm angry because you lied like I was too dumb to catch on. Because you built an exit plan like I was a prison. You don't get to flip the story now and play the trapped bird. You had the door open. You walked through it. You just kept the key in your back pocket in case the view wasn't as pretty as you imagined. Her breathing was sharp now, shallow. Her eyes glistened, but I saw no tears. Just exposure. So that's it, she said. You're giving me an ultimatum? No, I said. I'm giving you clarity. You've been living 2 lives. Time to bury one. She looked at me, then really looked like she was searching for the version of me who would let her off the hook. But he was gone. I killed him the night I found the envelope. And if I pick the condo, she asked, then you pack tonight. You leave the ring. You leave the keys. And you don't look back. And if I stay, then you sell it. The condo. The fantasy. You text him in front of me and say it's over for good. You block his number. And you rebuild this from rubble, one apology at a time. But it won't be easy. And it won't be fast. And I'm not promising I'll forgive you. Only that I'll try. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said the one thing I didn't expect. I don't know if I love him, but I don't know if I love you either. And there it was. The real truth. Not the affair. Not the key. Not the secret address. Just that sentence. Heavy. Sharp. Clean. I nodded. Got up from the table. Picked up my plate. Rinsed it in the sink. She just sat there, staring at her wine like it might answer for her. I'm going out, I said, grabbing my coat. Don't be here when I get back. Not unless you know. I walked out the door and didn't look back. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew if I did, I'd see her looking at me like she always did, like she didn't recognize the man who'd finally stopped waiting for her to decide that I came back around midnight. The porch light was off. House dark. I unlocked the door slowly, quietly, like a man breaking into his own life. Inside, nothing had moved. Same half glass of wine on the table. Same faint trace of her perfume in the air. But the silence had changed. It was heavier, more honest. I walked through each room like I was taking inventory. Her closet was open, half empty. The hangers that used to hold her favorite coats now swung like wind chimes in a breeze that wasn't there. Her jewelry box was gone. So was the bathroom bag she always kept packed for overnight trips. But her running shoes, those beat-up Nikes with the frayed laces, still sat by the door. I stood staring at them for a long time. They were the shoes she wore the day we moved in. The shoes she said felt lucky. She could have taken them, but she didn't. She left the key on the counter. No note, no goodbye, just cold metal in an empty house. And that told me more than any letter ever could. She didn't choose him. She just chose out that it's been 11 days since she left. No calls, no texts, no drunk midnight regrets. Just silence, stretched out like a crime scene tarp across the bed we used to share. The condo's been listed online. I saw the photos, clean, staged, soulless. Not a single trace of her. Like she was never there. Like it was all just a mirage she wandered into with someone else's name on her lips. I haven't called her. Haven't looked her up. Not because I'm over it, but because I don't need answers from a woman who didn't leave a question behind. Tyrone? He vanished too. Deleted socials. Changed his number. Probably moved on to the next passenger, looking for a reason to forget herself. Maybe she found him. Maybe she didn't. I stopped caring where she landed the moment I realized she never planned to take me with her. The mornings are still strange. The quiet is honest now, but sharp. I catch myself reaching for a second mug out of habit, then setting it back like it bit me. The house feels bigger, like a stage after the actors leave, set pieces still standing, but the performance over. Some nights, I replay that last dinner. The way she looked across the table, eyes full of indecision, mouth full of cowardice. And I think maybe that was the moment I actually loved her the most. Not because she stayed, but because she finally told the truth, even if it came too late to fix anything. I boxed her things yesterday. Every photo, every sweater, every scrap of the life we pretended we were building. I didn't burn them, didn't toss them in the trash. I just sealed the box, wrote her name on it, and left it in the garage. If she ever wants it, she knows where to find it. If not, it'll rot with the rest of the lies we kept in that house. Tonight, I stood at the window, looking out at the empty street, and realized I'm not angry anymore. Not at her. Not at him. I'm angry at the man I was. The one who waited, who hoped, who thought love was enough to stop a moving car. That version of me died the night I heard her laugh in the back seat of someone else's ride. The man standing here now, he doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He just locks the door behind her and lets the silence say what words never could. She left the shoes, but she took the way back with her. And I'm not going after it.